We're going to look at SpaceX here on the weekly chart. You can see we finally got enough data here for a weekly chart to actually put in a couple weeks worth of a 9-day EMA in here. You can see we're trading right below that. That is going to be our first area that we do need to breach and hold, 141. That is going to be our first main moving average in here on the weekly chart, that is, that we can actually go by as far as being some sort of an area where the stock price will actually revert back to, right? So no matter how far above we get extended or how far below we start stretching down under, we're looking for a mean reversion back to that EMA in here. To the upside above that 9-day EMA, we're going to be looking right here at this 149. And then outside of there, we're looking at that 160 and then 168 levels. Obviously, these are all coming back from the first few weeks of closes that we had in here. So those are going to be our resistances here to the upside. To the downside in here, again, the same thing, only these are going to be more recent closes that we had, obviously because of the big pullback that we had in the market. But we're looking here to the downside at 129, 122, and 115. Your IV is still kind of hard to gauge in here just because it is so new, but everybody's pricing in. It looks like about around an $8 expected move by this Friday, the following about $12. If you go out to your September monthlies, it looks like about a $20 move is being priced in this underlying. So IV is still relatively hard to gauge in here just because the stock is so new. And obviously the volatility is just kind of through the roof already. Not that we necessarily have a certain amount of gauge on it. It's just that we can see the underlying options movement happening so quickly and so much. We know that there's volatility there. The problem is trying to gauge it relative to itself in here. We just don't know. We don't have a lot of data to kind of back that up and put it on a grander scale. Now, we're going to look at NVIDIA here. This is the stock that everybody is going to be looking at in here coming up this week. The market is going to probably hinge on this earnings report in here. So if we do get a big pullback starting Monday or Tuesday, you've got to look for some sort of recovery by NVIDIA earnings. If the market starts to kind of run away from itself Monday or Tuesday, you kind of have to think, okay, are we just pricing in a NVIDIA earnings call, right? So that's kind of how you have to look at things. You kind of have to be a contrarian no matter what happens in the market. But let's see what happens as we approach, especially with the overall markets, and then obviously everything within AI, chips, semis like that. See how they are going to react overall as we start getting closer to this earnings report on Wednesday. Your IV in NVIDIA, your IV rank sitting about 33, $12 expected move priced in by this Friday, next Monday, about 13. If you go all the way out to your September monthly, it looks like right around a $16 expected move is being priced in here on the weekly chart. Technically, where is that going to put all of us? Well, it's all about this 9-day EMA right here. That's currently sitting at 211. That is going to be a spot that needs to hold. If not anything to the downside, we're looking at that nice 200 level. Really, 202 is kind of where we kind of been bouncing off of and just kind of being wrapped around, but 200 obviously is the big psych level in here. To the downside below the 202, we're looking right here at this lower trend line at 195. To the upside, what are we looking at? If we do get a bounce and a nice hold of that 9-day EMA, well, then obviously we are going to be focusing on this 216 right here, which was a nice resistance for us in the past, going all the way back to that April rejection that we had when we had that large pullback there. And then anything to the upside above that, we're looking at 225 and then 230. And then all the way up here, you have this upper trend line sitting at about 250. So that is going to be an area. If we do get a nice huge pop in here for your earnings report, everybody likes what they hear. And you get a large movement in here to the upside. And it seems like it's not going to slow down. 250 is going to be the major player in here, but we only got about a $12 expected move. Your last 8 earnings cycles in NVIDIA have all been inside the expected move. So kind of keep that in mind. Your expected moves have been rather large. I think this one is kind of small compared to what we have seen volatility wise in the past. That's just due to volatility and things like that. And I think everybody's just kind of worn out, right? Everybody's trying to, they just give up, right? Whereas remember you had a couple years ago where NVIDIA, they basically, all they had to do is just mention AI in their earnings report, no matter what happens, and the stock would skyrocket, right? So everybody's just kind of given up on that. There's so much AI semi chips. The bubble is getting larger and larger. It seems like it's a little bit diluted, so it doesn't have the same feel as before, but obviously still the largest company in the world. It is going to get some movement in here, but let's just kind of keep in mind the last 8 have been inside the expected move. Let's see if we're going to change that pattern and get something outside that expected move to the upside or downside, or we're going to keep on repeating the pattern and stay inside the expected move. So let's see what happens in here. $12 expected move priced in by this Friday in NVIDIA. Everybody is kind of hinging on this on Wednesday. Let's see what happens with the overall markets this week. All right, guys, if you like this video, make sure to check us out on all of our social media. We also have a Discord service if you are interested, and you can find all of our socials in the description below.